Welcome to KIMEcast, where we break through and cut the BS in sports medicine, rehabilitation, and sports performance, and talk about how things really work. Welcome to KIMEcast. Tony Mikla, Evan Hauger, Russ Dunning, Aaron Crouch. So today we want to talk a little about what we do and how we've kind of come to do it, and a little bit about the business of KIME and what this business looks like from a physical therapy standpoint and a sports performance standpoint, maybe compared to what some of the other businesses are that are in a similar nature. How we do things a little bit differently. We've had this slogan from the beginning that we do things differently because the old way doesn't work. And there's a lot of reason why we have that statement and why we speak to that. So we want to kind of bring some of that up and address it tonight as we go through. So, Evan, what are we going to have to drink here first?
All right, beer first. This is from Touchstone Brewery, which has made a couple of appearances on the podcast already. It's like a climbing gym associated with the climbing gym. This one is First Ascent Pale Ale. And it's got all kinds of climbing equipment on it. I think that's what they usually do on their cans. There's always climbing equipment or something. Yeah.
Do they brew the beer in the climbing gym? Do we know?
It's a great question.
Yeah, use a little sweat.
A little sweaty, yeah. That's the secret ingredient. That's the bite, right?
Or the chalk.
Or the chalk. It's a little powdery.
It's the drier ones, a little chalky.
Oh.
This stuff has been good in the past. They've done good stuff.
Yeah.
And always arts on the can is good. Yeah. So let's when we started KIME, we had a couple popular questions that come up to us as we are in the clinic working with folks and people get associated with the business, and the questions are like, why did you name it that? Is that somebody's name? Is it an acronym? And the reality of this, we actually went through quite a process in naming the business, and a little bit of business background. There's quite a few important ways when you look at starting a business of how you name it. There's some values, there's things to consider, and one of them is to use a somewhat unique name or unique word so that you can easily have rights to it, and you can get a website nowadays, or you can get an Instagram account. You don't have to fight for it, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously it's usually recommended that it's if you're in America, it's a non-English speaking word is ideal. And when you start to think about it, you can look at huge companies that this is exactly what they do, like Coca-Cola or Xerox or
every tech company,
Pepsi, yeah, mm-hmm. Exactly. Every tech company, and Google, it's a word, but nobody used it, forever. And same thing with Oracle, like huge companies, and this is a really common theme. Certainly, some people name the business after themselves, which, depending on which books you read on business and such, is probably a direction not to go down, depending on how large you want your business to be. If you want it to be a sole proprietorship and it's all about you and your services, then that might make a ton of sense. But we wanted something to be much bigger than us, so we did not do a name or an acronym for a name. So essentially, we really listed all of the important words and things that we valued, that we thought identify what we did the best. On paper, we brainstormed it out, tried to look at maybe ways to combine words and do some different things. And Russ actually was reading an article at one point from one of his mentors, and he mentioned a word in there, and he mentioned the word KIME, which was spelled out, which is really unique to see it spelled out like that. It's usually not the case, but it turns out that it's really a Japanese translation, and what it stands for, what it translates to, is maximizing your body's power production in the presence of maximum efficiency. And that's really what we do at the end of the day, is help people move better, move more efficiently, generate more power so that they can move with ease. So it was so fitting and so perfect in that name. If you take it and you look at the root of it down, it even has more importance and ties back to some of the martial arts strategies. And if you think about in karate or certain martial arts, we think about striking someone or breaking a board is kind of a fun way to think about striking something. When that happens, they say kai. They say kaya is the words that they use, and so that is kind of speaks to the same name as KIME. Is that kai portion speaks to that power production. So nonetheless, that's kind of where the name came from, and why we've used it is it certainly is a good fit for the day-to-day things that we accomplish. So that answers that question that comes in all the time. Mm-hmm. And my recommendation to those of you starting a business would be to do something similar, a similar process of looking through what are important words to you, what are important things to carry through your business, and try to choose words or letters that are not typically associated with already an existing language that people are familiar with, because it has made it quite easy to get a website and an Instagram and other things of that nature, without having to compete. If you name your, Smith Physical Therapy, there's probably a lot of those, I'm guessing, so.
No, there's always a flip side to that coin.
Sure.
And so that was all really wonderful and beautiful, and we live and die by it. It's great. And but in naming the company KIME, I was just driving down the street just the other day to the supermarket, and this guy pulls up right next to me, and he signals to roll down the window, and I say, "Hey, what's up?" And on our company trucks we have big bold KIME Performance PT on it, and he said, I know of KIME. Are you related to Ben KIME? It's like, no, it's no, there's no relation. Oh, so are you sure? I'm like, yeah, positive. I kind of named it with my co-founder. We kind of made it up. Definitely not a last name. So there's always some tangents to that.
Yeah, I think you certainly one of the dangerous things about naming something that's a weird name too is you have to then educate the market on what that name is. Like, what do you do? Because obviously we get asked of it a lot, which is kind of a win.
But it's perfect because you think about, why does an Apple represent the biggest branded computer tech company out there? I mean, it's kind of weird in the start, but now it's like I can't help but see an Apple and think of my phone. Really.
Do you know why they did it?
I don't. I really should know, but I don't.
So they did it because it appeared higher in the alphabet, and back in the day in the Yellow Pages.
Now I think about, okay. I have
Steve
heard that.
Jobs is back in the day in the Yellow Pages. The Apple was one of the top things, and it appeared above their number one competition, which was I think Atari. They wanted to be above Atari in the Yellow Pages. So
yeah.
Well, they won.
Interesting concept nowadays. That makes no difference.
Yeah, it makes
whatsoever.
On the naming thing, though, I think you do see a lot of physical therapy clinics often named after the person that founded it.
Yep.
I remember hearing Eric Cressy say years ago that his biggest regret in creating Cressy Sports Performance was naming it Cressy Sports Performance, because from there on, everybody that came, as he grew the business, everybody that came had to see Cressy. They couldn't see another coach. Like, if it's named after you, they're, the big league arm guy paying lots of money to be there and getting paid millions of dollars and this all importance. He doesn't want to go see your trainee, your young coach. He wants to see you. He wants to see your name.
Yeah.
So you build a brand that people trust instead of a name that people trust.
And that's exactly it. That's a decision you have to make in the early phases of your business as to what are you trying to really build? Are you building a brand? Are you building an enterprise? Or are you building a small local shop? And either is fine. But just know what you're choosing, because it's going to make drastic impacts on you long term down the road, and changing that name can be quite painful. So just things to consider as you go through that process. I think some other things regarding the business that is important that we'd like to share and speak to is that it has simple goals to really improve people's lives, improve function, and really improve anybody we come in contact with. And that includes both our team and our employees, as well as the patients that we see, obviously. So you would think as a business, the main goal of the business is to serve and create this great situation for the clients and the customers, which is absolutely our goal. But in the process of doing that, we really want to create a great environment for our employees and for our team, so that they can grow and that they can prosper and that they can have success and find joy in what they do every day, which is going to carry themselves down to having joy and having fun and working with their clients in a more effective way. So that's paramount in the way that it's designed. And so more on that idea. One of the things I think that's tricky in our field of physical therapy specifically, but certainly in the field of medicine right now, is you're seeing this massive reduction over the last 10 or 20 years in time with the client, right? And how much time is available between the healthcare provider and the patient. And so we're all battling this concept heavily. And so as a patient, you go in and with your doctor now, you're probably down to less than 10 minutes. In some cases it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and maybe you don't even get to see the doctor. You see an assistant or something. Not taking anything away from them, but that's just what the society has kind of unfolded with the way insurance and medical billing works. That's the only way they can be profitable, is to see that much volume. So that's how that works. The same thing's true in our field, where the insurance situation has so drastically changed on the reimbursement and become so much lower that you're seeing therapists have to see more and more people to have a career, to have a lifestyle that's that's one that they want. That's average, I would say, with the community. There's not too many rich therapists out there, so it's kind of to live along with the average middle class community, which is great, obviously. But to do that, you see them having to work harder to see more people. So the standard back in the 80s was 1 patient an hour, and then in the 90s it moved to 2 people an hour. And in the early 2000s, it was still kind of hanging out there, and then it moved pretty rapidly to 3 and to 4 people in an hour as a visit situation. So you've got clinicians now that, the industry average is between 3 and 4 patients an hour being seen. And when you think about it, that's 15 minutes per patient. That's extremely difficult to get everything we talk about on this podcast or everything that's valuable to us as clinicians. It's hard to get, it would be impossible to get that in a 15-minute window. So, we've really been steadfast in the way we designed the business and designed our organization financially so that we can preserve this 30-minute window of one-on-one time with our clients. And that's been paramount to be able to do all the things we talk about doing. And I think it's important to discuss here because we might give some advice or we might speak to these concepts that are so valuable to us that we feel are like standards. But yet in the industry, they're not standards. And some of you out there that might want to apply some of these techniques or are looking for some of these things, understand that the industry, in a lot of cases, doesn't allow for you to implement these higher levels of performance or higher level techniques because it takes more time to implement, more time to evaluate.
From a time perspective, but then also from an equipment perspective. I think the other component of this is the spaces that we're in. Each space that we're in is a little unique, but they're all affiliated with some fitness related things. So we're gyms in most of our scenarios, or we're with a baseball facility in our Sacramento area, and it's big wide open spaces of turf. There's barbells and weights. There is the higher level of performance is possible. And I think if you look at most of those, throwback those other PT clinics at 3 and 4 people an hour, it's a small room with carpet and TheraBand and 2-pound weights, and because that's all they have time to get to, right? There's no time to get to these bigger, more complicated things.
And I think some people might combat that and say, I don't have the space, like it's not available to me. But one thing they could change, what I think is it's a ripple already in the profession, is your attire. I think. But what I said to myself is I would never wear khakis while being a fucking PT because or tucking a shirt or wear loafers.
And you went there.
And I went there. So I'll have not to this day worn a polo in a professional setting because I had to demonstrate. I had to demonstrate the mirror drill, and for those that don't know what that is, it's a reactive drill with your client where they have to do everything you do in a very speed-like fashion. So sprint, backpedal, change of direction, get on the ground, get back up again. You can't tell me that you would maintain your tucked-in shirt if you'd had to do those things. And nowhere would you be able to do those in, I don't know, what are they? I don't even know dress shoe brands, but either way. So it's like absolutely paramount that you can, Clark's, there you go. As, Spurries, who knows?
Sperry,
exactly, right? I don't buy anything outside of the stuff I wear for here, guys. But it's so critical that you can control that, I think, as the clinician and as the business owner, and how you want your team to look professional. You can still look very professional in athleisure nowadays, just because that's part of the society, and you have to be movable. I mean, you have to be able to move.
Yeah,
I know. Sorry.
This is amazing. Yes. I did not see this coming whatsoever.
See, niche right into it's so important.
You're super right.
It's so important. Like, how can you possibly teach someone how to move their body if you're restricted by the clothing on your body? I mean, it's so simple. It's such a simple solution, and it gives off a vibe. So I'm going to say I'm sports medicine, but I'm sitting over here with the tucked-in shirt. I mean, I could go on for hours.
Well, I go back to some of my friends and classmates that are PTs in other places in outpatient sports medicine facilities wear khaki, polo, or button-up in some cases, and then some New Balance or Hoka's or something, something silly like that.
That's their
That's their athlete.
That's their freedom right there.
Yeah,
what shoes they can wear. That's the one thing. I got to elevate myself here. I got to move athletics. Anyways,
that's really.
But it is so important. It's a vision, right? It's giving the perception of who the person is I'm working with.
That fits along with the space, though, right?
That's
part of the look, right?
Absolutely.
It's part of the atmosphere. You're creating the sports, athletic, movement atmosphere. All of that ties together. It's part of the brand. That's part of part of what it looks like.
It does come down to really the experience of the user, of the patient, of the customer, and going back to the time. We're talking about the environment, the atmosphere, and the attire, and that time part. What we've done as a company that's been, I think, really critical and really unique is that we give a solid time block for evaluations. If you are new to our business and you're new to meeting one of our clinicians, we're going to be giving you an extra long period of time to allow for the appropriate questions. We recognize that a new person coming in to our clinic is trying to figure out, do I trust you? Do you have the plan and the identification and the experience that I feel that is going to help me in the long run? And that takes time.
Yeah.
We understand that there is a process here. That's the buy-in process. Do you trust us? Do you trust the clinician? Do you trust the process in this journey? And that can never be rushed. And so we really kind of give us a strong period of time that's longer than all of our follow-up sessions to be able to establish that initial connection, because we realize how important it is.
And I think you touched on something there about their experience that broadens beyond just their treatment time, right? So if you are the business owner, or if you are someone to aspire to be a business owner, especially in this field, one of the great books that was recommended by yourself, Tony, was The E-Myth, in that you can't be the technician and run the business at the same time. You have to see it from all angles. And I think what's been a tremendous amount of effort in the last couple of years has been, how can we make every touch point of the client's experience something greater than they're ever going to have somewhere else? And that's from the moment they call, or really it's from the moment, if they're going to Google us, look at the website. Does it speak to what they're going to experience in real person? Do they have a great experience with someone over the phone when they call for the first time to schedule? Do they have a great experience with the platforms we use, either online or when they first walk in and get to check in? Do they have a great experience with the people that are non-providers in the process? And then eventually they get the opportunity to see it, to feel it, and to be there for the full hour or half hour, however long it's going to be. And then it closes out in the exact same way. That's like a tremendous part that I think a lot of technicians that want to go out on their own underappreciate and undervalue.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend that book enough. The E-Myth, it's called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and it's something I've read many, many times over and over again, and dissected pretty heavily, actually. Probably the cheap side of me that didn't want to pay for all the mentoring process. Just keep reading it and then implement and read and implement. And then it's interesting, as we evolved as a company over the first few years, I'd be rereading it. Now everything I would read would mean something different as I read it, as we kind of were evolving, and I just learned more perspective as we went along. The same words mean something different to me because now we're in a different situation, of course. So I couldn't recommend that enough to aspiring young clinicians, no matter the field, any business owner for that matter. It's a generalized book, but there are specific ones. They have a chiropractor version and a doctor version that are certainly interesting and worth to read. But yeah, that was one of the moments of impact on me, was that I have bought polos for the company. And the response that we had did show my age, apparently, quite significantly. I was quite surprised. I wasn't expecting
It might have
that.
only been the brand of polo that you bought.
It's a quality brand.
It's Tommy Bahama.
Tommy Bahama is a nice brand.
Maybe when I get a couple decades older, maybe, but
Under Armour polos. Those were
nice. I still
wear
have that. I still wear the professional
You do
outings.
not wear that.
I sure do. No, I don't.
Unbelievable.
I don't wear it to work.
I've seen
Went
you wear
to a
it too.
golf tournament
The
and wear the
Tommy or
polo.
No, the Under Armour one. No, the Tommy
yes,
Bahama
the gray
one.
one.
Yeah,
The gray
that was-
one.
I totally give that
Yeah,
to my
no,
dad
I do
for
wear a
his
collar.
birthday.
Yeah, because I can fit in khakis and do sprints in khakis. I can't do that.
I'm not saying I can't. I just don't want to. It doesn't give off a good vibe. You can't say you're Russ while wearing khakis. Like you walk into the building. I challenge you to go to work the next day wearing khakis, and you see if you get the same response.
Instead of doing lunges, they'll just do handstand walks.
Yeah,
He doesn't
seriously,
make it less.
seriously.
I mean, doesn't-
Yeah, right.
He needs to tuck his shirt in to do that. Unbelievable.
Goodness. I remember a story from a client. So this kind of goes back to experiencing the business from a very rudimentary level of us kind of being all hands on deck, so to speak. I had a client that I'd seen when he was in high school and he was a senior in college just recently, and he had asked me, through text, like, "Hey, Aaron, I'm gonna come back in town. Can I get some treatment over the next 3 weeks or whatever before I have to go back to school?" And I said, "Sure." And the process now is to kind of get him connected with our efficiency team or our admin staff, and just get an intake and go through the process, so on and so forth, so it's a clean entry. And as I sent him that, and he came in the next week, and he's like, "Aaron," he's like, after I got off the phone and I had to get on the phone with the other gal, and my mom was there because she experienced it when I first went to you. I was like, that's not them. Like, that's not what they do. I usually just show up. I would text you. I'd hand you cash. You'd treat me, and I'd leave. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, there's something like kind of fun to that, but at the same time, there's a lot of holes to that process, and I guarantee you there was some frustrations along the way. So, but I thought it was kind of funny to see where it, what used to have to be managed, and now how clean and professional it is.
I think early on in KIME's business development, we had the wonderful opportunity to have a special patient, and her name was Kathy Yonda, and she immediately kind of rose pretty high in Tony and I's conversation. He would always kind of talk about, I have this one patient, she's got some great ideas on how to make our process better, and she is about as passionate as about business development as we are about physical therapy. It's pretty cool. And so, and Kathy became one of our first few employees with KIME, not as a non-clinician, which was a bit gutsy as a really kind of young business to hire people that weren't, revenue generating people in the company, which is interesting in business. But she became this such a special development within it, and to develop the efficiency teams, as Aaron indicated. But she's kind of our leader of the administrative development. Really, literally wrote a P&P manual 4 times over the past 5-6 years, because that's how many times we've really kind of changed all the systems and started from scratch. And each time we changed it, she was always like, nope, that's not good enough. That doesn't meet the excellence that patients deserve, from the first phone call to the email statement to the balance to the handshake at the end. It doesn't meet that excellence. And as clinicians, we kind of stand behind our clinical work through our hands and through our exercise progression as a testament to this is KIME. And what she did is she brought that on the other side of the equation into the office, into the administrative realm. And so from a business model standpoint, to put a healthy investment into that development was massive, still is massive, still is a huge work in progress, but we've come really light years with that development. That was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a couple things on that. First off, if you're listening and you're tired of Russ slapping his thighs while he's talking and it's irritating you, then just write us in and we'll make him wear khakis next time or something else to prevent this issue that we've tried to resolve over the first 8 sessions. But
that's why we got rid of the big table. But
we've made some adjustments.
Yeah, we're gonna give him a pillow. It's a pillow. We got to confine his hands.
Strike.
Constraint-induced therapy to both arms.
Goodness
You
gracious.
just can't bang your forehead on anything.
But on that note, I think one thing that we've really strived for is we actually wanted people outside of the clinicians, of course. We wanted people that were not associated with healthcare in the past, as part of our administrative and our billing process and things, because we frankly feel like the healthcare system has been broken in so many ways, and there's so many challenges to it. So I've looked at people who looked at other successful businesses and other pathways, and how could we bring them into what we're doing, and how could they learn the healthcare side, but bring in some other experiences they had. Maybe we can make this low efficient, maybe change some of the problems we see with healthcare. And I think we've done that really well in many, many ways. And we really, really resist this getting pulled backwards, and there are certainly a lot of tethers that try to pull us back into that system, and insurance is a big one. I mean, I'm not sure how people truly understand how insurance works, but they have tremendous control over healthcare and the care that's delivered to people. They have tremendous influence over it, and it's really sad to watch it happen in many cases. And we're really strategic about what insurance partners we work with, and it's very limited because we just don't tolerate the insurance company driving healthcare. It's just not something that I'm willing to have involved with us. So we've strategically partnered with insurance companies that do take care of their people and share some of the vision that we have with our clients. And then we work with them within the limitations that we have, of course, but we do the best we can. But we specifically avoid other insurances that will intentionally decrease quality of care just by being associated with them, frankly. And it's kind of a long conversation about how that works, but it's really, really powerful. So that's something big for us is having non-healthcare associated administrative people to try to better our process, better our solutions, better our strategies, and then really being strategic about our partnerships with with the payer sources. So
Yeah, I mean, for all the patients out there, that this is a big one. I think when patients try and figure out which therapy provider to connect with, and they're finding an in-network solution, and they feel that, oh, I need to find an in-network solution because that's what my insurance is going to pay for, and that's what's best for me. And really, that is really kind of answering the important question of what is best for me with the wrong priority of whether or not it's an in-network or out-of-network. And that's why we have such a strong cash following, because frankly, when it comes to out-of-pocket cost, it's quite similar between your meeting your deductible and hitting our cash pay. And I think that's why we've done such a strong, the business started out cash pay, and it's still paying for service with just hard cash right there, and it's simple, the transaction is clean, and we've made it affordable for that reason from the very beginning. And now we still have a huge part of our patient population choose to do that rather than go with an in-network solution that doesn't really fill their need. So that was a big one.
yeah, I think you're seeing this happen anyway, like in the industry too, where you're seeing the co-pays are rising, the deductibles are rising, so people are pretty much almost paying cash out of pocket for therapy services anyway, unless they've had a surgery up front. But even so, they're out thousands of dollars in that case beforehand. So we're super respectful of that. We always put together a plan that makes sense for them financially as well as them physically. So if our goal is to return you back to whatever lifestyle activity it is, or back to sport, or wherever it is, whatever your goal is, we want to put a plan together that financially makes sense for that as well. And that's absolutely critical and paramount in our process. That, hey, what can you afford, and what do you want to invest in this? And are we going to do this in 2 visits? Are we going to do this in 10? Do we want to do this in 20? Or do you want to do it? Do you want to do it every day for the next 4 weeks? What makes sense for you and your lifestyle and your financial obligations? So,
I think to Russ's point, though, I think we see a lot of people that have failed in that other system. I think a large amount of the people that pay cash that we see are people that were not successful in those other models where these people are seeing 3 and 4 people an hour. And I do think that's something that we're fighting every day, is this image of physical therapy that the majority of people have is something that we're providing something very different. So when they say, "Oh, I'm going to physical therapy," this is a different product than that. That 3 and 4 people an hour, it's like you said, it doesn't work. And so I think our cash pay group of people are often people that have failed in some of those other scenarios.
Yeah.
I think a common question I get, I just had a patient today who is going with an in-network provider, and she was told by a good friend, "Hey, you got to go see my therapist." So I had her for an evaluation today. And the first question I usually ask when someone's been to another provider or currently going to an in-network provider, and this is really it is a criticism. Yep, it's definitely a criticism on that therapist. I asked that patient, did your other provider interact with your tissue? Did they push your tissue like this? And I show them. I show on their scar. I show on their tissue. I show on their joints. And for this woman, she had a wrist fracture and a wrist stabilization surgery, and she had such a stiff hand that she couldn't move it. And so it was really an empathetic question of, are they interacting with your tissue? And that's absolutely critical, is because she was asking, hey, should I do my other therapist that's in network and you at the same time, or how do you want to work? And my question was, are they working on your tissue? Really that simple. It's less about what's their qualifications and what's their skill set. You need someone to work on your tissue right now. And I think what you're seeing with the provider systems, the in-network solutions of these 3 and 4 patients an hour, is the therapist isn't given time for manual therapy. And that's such a critical part that we do for post-operative care or for post-trauma. When you have scar tissue, when you have tissue restriction, someone's got to get in there and help you work on that tissue, because it's hard to work on your other hand. It just is. Or it's hard to push on an area that's painful and you don't really know what you're doing. And you want that guidance. And that's a big part of it.
To be clear, and to support what Russ is saying there, is we don't think that the therapists are necessarily bad or uninformed or uneducated, but it's a system that's putting pressure on them to see people more frequently, which then drives down the quality of care and their ability and their drive to really get better in all honesty. And that system isn't really pushed from the insurance standpoint as to how they're going to get paid and be a profitable business. So it goes back to the business side from the beginning, is how is it organized, how is it set up, and ours is set up from the start be successful both for the client and for the employees, so they can enjoy that process and the client can have a great experience and we can help them achieve their goals, whatever that may be, and whatever they set for. So we certainly brand ourselves in the sports performance space and the sports medicine space, but we're working with people that really want to get better at the end of the day. And that's, I'd say, who ends up finding us, and that's our number one population. And some of them are certainly athletes, some of them elite performers, some of them, unbelievable, and many of them are those just like the rest of us, just living life, trying to get through the day, working in an office all day, or maybe they're home and looking to be able to be more active with their grandkids is what fills up the schedule, and that's so much fun and rewarding for all of us to just help people improve their lifestyle and improve their quality of life.
I think another piece to this that you kind of mentioned in the beginning, but we've kind of gone a different direction here, is that's kind of how it works for patients, but about how it works for the people that work for the company. That was another big goal of the company, was to make it work for the employees and the people that are a part of it. And I'll say for me, that's why I'm here, because when I knew Russ and Tony when I was an undergrad, I interned with them, and then I went to PT school. They went off and did some other things. And when I was coming to a close of PT school, my last clinical rotation, I don't remember exactly how I got connected with Tony. Maybe it was from a professor, but I can't. Was it?
Yeah.
It was Raphael. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I connected through a professor, and
He said you were the best in class, and Aaron was the second, but
Pretty sure he said those things verbatim.
something like that. I can't quite remember how that went down.
Yeah, of course.
whatever it was.
It's probably because you were wearing a polo and
And your khakis.
Yeah, probably.
And your Sperry's.
Scarred from it.
But so Tony said, "Hey, I heard you want to do sports medicine, and if you want to, then we should chat." And I was like, "Okay, this is interesting." So we talked on the phone a few times, and he had some cool ideas. And then when I came back from Boston, where my last clinical rotation was, he's like, "Hey, meet me in El Dorado Hills at this gym. It's called Minnie's House of Pain." I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I drive up to El Dorado Hills. I walk into this gym. It's clearly not Tony's space. I've never been here before. It doesn't really look like a PT clinic that I'm used to, at least. So I walk in, he puts me in, we're in Vince's office, or in somebody else's office, and Tony's got a marker and a whiteboard, and he's like, "Yeah, we got this plan, I got this idea, Russ and I have this plan, we got this idea," and Tony draws stuff out on a whiteboard, and we're like 5 years into this process, and literally everything he drew out on that whiteboard has happened to this point. We haven't missed a thing. I got a snapshot in my mind of what was on that whiteboard, and nothing's been missed. So I think one of the biggest things and the coolest things about this company is that it's made to make the people in it, succeed.
Well said.
Yeah. I feel like we give everyone in the company a survey too, pretty much annually on I don't know, what do they enjoy the most, or and I think it's something along the lines of what do you enjoy the most about being part of a KIME as a team or family or whatever it is, and it seems that it's never monetary. It's always tied back to some level of the culture and the teammates around them. So when you create an environment where people can thrive both professionally and personally, and feel like they're making an impact and they're given all the tools to do so, then it's a beautiful thing to see and to watch people. It's so much easier to mentor them. It's so much easier to engage with them and really kind of continue learning, because you don't feel pressured by a system that demands your constant productivity that's almost impossible. So, and it shows in the quality of the employee, and it shows in the quality of the service.
Yeah, it's so true. I started in those environments, and this is where as your experience kind of drives your development and how things change, and there's certainly past experiences when Russ and I started this that we had in the past and we did not want to reproduce. And one of mine was being at a place that had high volume turnover and had poor insurance contracts, and I was just like, I don't love this. I'm losing. I was a year in, and I was already losing some passion for what we do, because it's just kind of being ground to the bone to produce a certain amount. And then we had a great opportunity and really built something special. But Russ and I found some limitations there in the way that the team was developed and the way the team was rewarded for their successes. So then that really kind of drove us to how we organize this business, and this brand was certainly around some of those things, and certainly around some other ideals that we haven't experienced yet that we thought can be could be great. So it's been an honor to build it. It's been a tremendous amount of fun. We've been able to grow significantly over the last 5 years. It's really been a tremendous process, and I think we've served a tremendous amount of the community very, very well, and the customer. And I think we have a growing team that's we've gone from basically 2 therapists to 17 therapists now in a 5-year period. So it's pretty cool, and a company the size of about 30 or so folks that make this thing turn and make it tick. So it's just still in its really introductory phases of what it can be, and we're excited to continue to do it. But at the end of the day, like Evan said there, it's both of those components. It's creating something that really gives back to the people that work in it, and then something that gives back to the community that it serves. And always those two things in balance is what we're shooting for.
I think about I'm going to put a little twist to this question because the conversation inspired me to ask it, and but I want to ask, what the fuck are you doing as the consumer? As a consumer, right? And my thought process behind this question is this feeling you have to be subject to your benefits. You have to be subject to who you get access to. And in reality, you should be able to find people like us. You should be able to find people that can serve you or your family, or be an advocate for finding the absolute best resource for your rehab or your surgery or whatever care it is that you need. Don't feel like you need to be subject to what someone tells you through your insurance plan. That's your only option. You only have one body. Don't walk around like you're coming back. So if you're going to have a surgery, don't let someone fuck it up because they're a resident,
If you have a legal problem, you're going to try to find a really good lawyer to help you, right? You're not going to see, well, what do my benefits cover? What covers this?
No.
This kind of the silly thing about how this insurance stuff works is, somebody has a healthcare problem, we have a healthcare solution. But then there's this third party that's like, hey, why don't you pay me first and then I'll pay them for you? And the only way that third party insurance makes money off of any of this is if collective patients pay them more than they pay out to collective entities. It's such a sideways version of things, and I do think more and more people are starting to see a way around that, they are a consumer and they do have a choice to be able to go places. So I
have more patients that ask me, which insurance should I pick?
Yes, I get that question all the time. Yeah. Once they've been through the process with us a little bit, and then they see, oh, this insurance isn't covered. Well, which one is? I'm up to change mine now.
Yeah,
what do I change to?
What do you think?
Yeah,
there's a lot of factors there, but for PT, I could really educate you. But a lot of factors there. I'm not gonna tell someone how to pick their Medicare insurance coverage because I don't know anything about. But I think about if people are going to spend enough time in the grocery store in one aisle to pick their cereal, they should spend the same amount of effort to choose their level of self-care, and whether that be their PT. It doesn't matter if you're in network or out of network. Make it happen. If you're going to go to dinner and spend $80 on dinner without even a bat of your eyelashes, then you should be able to spend the same amount of money on taking care of yourself, honestly.
Yeah. And another thought here too is this is something that Mike Reinold would always say is you go to the dentist twice a year to get your teeth checked, whether there's something wrong or not, right? You always go get it checked, but nobody checks movement. Nobody cares about what's your quality of movement. Nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
Why don't people get screened? Why don't you get your movement screened more than at least once a year?
You move all day long.
You do a physical with your doctor, but they might push your arm once or twice and make you turn and cough or whatever. but
I'd hoping you'd include that. If you weren't, I was going to.
But nobody's really looking at quality of movement or how your body is truly functioning from a physical perspective. And there's no reason you shouldn't get that looked at regularly. And I know I do. I have people I see that Russ does. I know you guys do. Have people that check back with you every few months, or that they're perfectly healthy, but they just want to make sure that what's the next step or what am I missing here?
Yeah. Or to reestablish your own personal goals. I mean, that might be a segue into another podcast episode, but goal setting, and then how can I be the coach for you to achieve those over this year?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, from a consumer standpoint, just for some clarity, some people don't realize this, but if you get a prescription for something, and PT is just an example of that, but you have the right to go wherever you want to fulfill that prescription. So you don't have to go to the therapist that's on the script per se. You can go anywhere you want to. So you have that freedom of choice for sure. And then of course, from a benefit standpoint, you've got these in-network, out-of-network, and then cash pay options. But really consider what your options are, because overall, PT is pretty much in the same price point no matter where you go. For the most part, it varies very little. But call some places up and compare some costs and look at what the best options are for you, because you can usually probably get quite a bit for a cash pay rate, and ask some questions about, maybe how they're going to apply their care and how it might be different than the neighbor down the road. So it's definitely a difficult place to navigate, that's for sure. And our goal is to make it simpler for the consumers all over the country, that this can be better, and we thoroughly believe this profession can be better and needs to be better, and we're striving to accomplish that every day through our business, from the way we structured it to what we do on a daily basis with both our internal team as well as our clients that come through the door. So we hope to see you guys and touch you guys in that process, if that helps you, and answer any questions you have throughout your process in either finding the right healthcare or finding the right place to work in your future. So this is KIMEcast. Thanks for listening. This was KIMEcast, and we are the KIME Human Performance Institute. Thank you very much for listening. We'd love to continue the conversation with you. Please hop on our social media. It's at KIMEHPI, and engage with us there. If you'd like us to feature a topic or answer any questions live on the show, post your comments there. You can also check us out on our website at KIMEperformance.com, and there you can see links to content that we've posted throughout our podcast for more information.